Welcome to the live checkup. This is where we sit down with Dr. Asante Le Blanc and ask all the possible questions we can when it comes to our health and care. Let me just tell you this first off. Dr. Asante Le Blanc is the medical director and owner of Victoria Clinic, your home for holistic health care in Trinidad and Tobago. Victoria Clinic is located at 54 Galley Street in Woodbrook. Dr. Le Blanc is a medical doctor and certified medical herbalist. She is an integrative health care practitioner, bringing together the eastern and western branches of medicine so as to better guide patients on their path to optimum health. She's also a certified clinical densitometrist, specialist in diagnosis and treatment of osteoporosis. At Victoria Clinic, services offered include medical consultations, traditional Chinese medicine consultations, acupuncture, medical herbalism, blood tests, electrocardiograms, lung function testing, and Dexter bone density testing. You can contact Victoria Clinic at 622-2221 or 622-0683. Follow them on Facebook, Victoria Clinic, or Instagram, Victoria Clinic_Trinidad. Website, www.victoria-clinic.net. This is the live checkup. I'm JD. Now, let's jump into today's conversation. Hey guys, good evening and welcome to another episode of the live checkup. I'm JD and this is Dr. Asante Le Blanc. Of course, you would have gotten all the info you needed to know about Dr. Asante Le Blanc before we started off, but check it out again later on. We have more details as always, just to make sure you have the contact info for Dr. Asante Le Blanc and the team at Victoria Clinic. So I hope you guys are well. It is a very difficult time in which we're living in. We're hearing too many things pertaining to our health on the outside, COVID this, COVID that. But with that said, and we still know we have to try and figure out this thing called COVID-19, let's just try to see how we can continue life with many of the things that exist around us. Some weeks ago, my best friend sent me a message and she says, Jay, you need to have a conversation about PMS. Yeah? And I thought, who has to have that? You know who we're talking about. She says, yes, Dr. Le Blanc. They call you Dr. Ginger. So, Dr. Ginger, as she's lovingly called, but Dr. Asante Le Blanc, this is your place as always to dive into this discussion with us, please. PMS. You'll hear men say, actually PMS anymore. Can you start off by telling us, first of all, how you're doing? That's important. I need to know that. I'm very busy. I know. No, I need to ask that question.
Good evening, JD. Good evening, everybody.
The man always say with PMS, and that's why she moody still. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 3 weeks in a month.
You're good though. All is well?
Yes, under the circumstances, I'm, as my husband would say, taking my licks. Doing okay.
You're doing okay.
Surviving under the given pressures of life.
I can just imagine.
Yes. I'm okay. I'm thankful, blessed and highly favored.
Thank you. Amen for that, for real. But you're here today to tell us or help us understand PMS. You're speaking to our sisters, and I'm sure some brothers would like to know too, because they need to understand it as we go through it.
They need to understand the women that they love, right?
Exactly.
So PMS, I thought over and over about this conversation, and I'm like, what do I say? Because I find as I get older, I'm seeing more PMS in my life. So PMS is basically premenstrual syndrome. It's the abbreviation for premenstrual syndrome. And basically that is a collection of signs and symptoms that a woman will experience about a week just before her period starts.
Right.
Is it used to be
it's very serious, but it's funny because I know the men are just, they don't get it, but go ahead.
It used to be, so premenstrual syndrome is a collection or a group of signs and symptoms that a woman may feel about a week before the period starts.
Right.
Now, it used to be that you would make a joke and say, oh, you're PMSing, oh, if a woman being very difficult or very moody, oh my God, must be that time of her month and so forth. It's so true. and the reason for this is very simple. It's really that there's a hormonal change happening
Right.
And that change and that sort of perfect imbalance of hormones then is what impacts on so premenstrual syndrome can come, everybody think it's just the emotional syndrome, it's just the emotional symptoms, but it can come from your legs swelling more than usual, you're feeling more
Right.
bloated, some people get constipation or diarrhea, some people feel very hot in the night. um as you get older that happens and it's not the hot flashes yet.
Mm-hmm.
Some people feel very irritable and easily frustrated. You can get more headaches in the premenstrual phase. Some people get a lot of lower abdominal pain sometimes. Their legs tend to feel more weak sometimes.
Right.
Overall, they may feel very tired, like an extreme, oh God, I feel so drained, I don't know what's going on kind of thing. And these are all different things, you know. Some women will report some strange symptoms. Some people feel very lackluster. They just feel like everything's going wrong at that time, and it's a lot of emotional issues during PMS as well. You almost seem as though you're a rapid cycling, cussing kind of situation. And more we're seeing that when you do not have a healthy, balanced lifestyle. So lack of exercise, an imbalanced diet, you know, running on that treadmill, the proverbial treadmill of life, with no rest and no paying attention and self-care, as I call it, as we all call it these days. That is when it's more pronounced. Um,
Dr. LeBlanc, before you go on, let me ask you a question. Is this something that all women get, or is it that you just, I mean, you have different things happening. You mentioned it could be legs, pain, it could be just moody, whatever, the different symptoms or signs. But is there a possibility that there are women who just don't get this at all? Any sort of PMSing symptoms or signs?
Yes, there's some women that have an amazing genetic component to them and they
Right.
feel no cramps. Their periods are lovely. It lasts 3 to 5 days. They don't even know anything. The period is regular. And you know, there's some families with the women in the families that feel nothing. And then there's some families that feel extreme PMS.
Right.
My family, for example, is half and half. We have some women that feel it and some that don't. So I must admit that I never felt PMS like that I targeted it, that I said, oh my God, it's PMS. But I see that as I get older, I don't know if it's that I'm paying more attention to my body and my hormones, but I do see a difference. You know, something's coming. You know, the change is coming just before, but I deal with it. I use herbs, I use teas. You know, I do different exercises to combat and to be proactive against that.
Before you jump into the different things that we do to deal with it or treat it, you just mentioned, you know the changes as you get older, you see the changes. But one thing that I've noticed is that those changes or symptoms, they vary each time.
Right. So, JD, the symptoms do not have to be the same every month. There may be one symptom that is a constant, but it doesn't have to be the same, because that's the I guess the beauty or the not so beautiful thing about PMS is that every month is different.
Right.
We don't ovulate on the same side every month, for example. You know, it depends on how much attention depends on what is happening, how much of the hormones were released and the imbalance, so to
Right.
speak, for that particular cycle. So it's never the same exact, like I know.
If I
I
get
mean, sometimes you
this is
know you're
it.
gonna get a headache and on a
Right.
certain time, or you know, or you're gonna you feel a different way, or what we call dystemic, where you feel sad or you feel a little down.
Right.
But other symptoms may not be the same. So your breast may not be sensitive all the time.
Right.
You may not get the pain on the same side. Your legs may or may not swell at the same time. You know, those kinds of things. So it's not always for sure certain this is what you're going to get.
So this is not going to be a long conversation, guys, because PMS is pretty much a concise sort of discussion that we're having. But how can you guide us, Dr. LeBlanc, on ways of easing this? This is what I'm talking about, the treatment now of dealing with this, no matter the sign, but the PMS symptoms that come before those days, which we are very happy to see sometimes.
Um, so so the thing is, JD, I think it's about women, first of all, embracing their femininity, and embracing that aspect of your reproductive life. So
Right.
being happy and one with your period and your menstrual cycle or reproductive cycle, so to speak. That, that coming from a place of positivity when it comes to your period and how your hormones, that's very important, because your emotional state in itself can impact on your hormones, impact on how you're feeling, and impact on how your hormones then further impact on your emotional state. So it's a very vicious cycle. But that being said, exercising is very important. Looking at what you eat. And JD, every week after week, we say the same thing:
Yeah, we do.
eating as healthy as possible and eating the foods that are natural. And people, they want, and I know a lot of people say, don't eat foreign chicken, don't understand where your food is coming from, because a lot of the food industry, because it had to deal with the population explosion that we had years ago, a lot of quick fixes were found, and that led to GMO products or genetically modified products. It led to ways of, for example, not seeing a lot of your cattle loss or a lot of your poultry loss. So antibiotics to prevent illness in the poultry and the livestock. It led to, oh, I need to get these chickens fat in 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
hormones were pumped into the feed. And as we are seeing and continue to see the negative impact our need for quick fixes has had and is still having on our bodies. So I think it's where we always reiterate every week: go back to basics. Remember how we grew up. Remember what we ate. Remember the importance of your ground provisions, your vegetables. JD, like I grew up kitchen complain constantly when the caterpillars decide that my garden is their food. But that's the problem. We're living with them. And I choose not to use pesticides because I know the impact it may have on my body and my health and that of my family. But
Right.
at the same time, I have to give to get, if you understand. So it's a give and take situation. It's where we have to return to learn to live symbiotically with these creatures. You
You
understand?
are my mother.
And
No, I'm kidding you. You
I
sound
know,
just like my mother. Because I told her I saw a
but I
locust
don't
beetle,
like it because
but she
I
says
don't
they
like it because sometimes I know, but it pisses me off. The butterflies look nice, but why you have to eat my food? I mean, like, can't you find grass? Like, could you mow my lawn by eating that? Like, why my food? But I mean, the reality is, for example, these are all pollinators. The bees are all pollinators. The butterflies are all pollinators. But to get to a butterfly, you have to be a caterpillar. You can't walk before you crawl. It is the life cycles now have to be reconnected and reacquainted. So you have to understand what you're eating. You have to understand your family. History is so important. Speak to the women in your family and understand how their cycles have been and what they have gone through. That's very important. I recommend JD a lot of, for example, I still like chicken, but I eat local chicken or yard fowl. I will look for no antibiotic, no hormone chicken if I'm buying foreign chicken. I eat duck, which is local, but I still ask, what feed do you give it to try and eliminate the excess antibiotics and hormones in my body? People say plant-based diets. I'm still trying to become a herbivore. I have not gotten to that stages yet, but I find that I alternate it. I do a mixture of plant and animal-based diets, and I look at the quality of my food. Yams, sweet potatoes, cassavas, cucumbers, watermelons, dal, greens. Those are very important, very important. You can have the edamame beans, which are soybeans, but don't eat excessive soy. Milk, a lot of people are worried about dairy.
Yeah.
I grew up on a cow farm, so I mean, I love my milk, but then now we have UHT milk and cow's milk in boxes. So we have to reassess whether or not, or the impact of that milk on our bodies. I mix it with almond milk and UHT milk just because I like milk at times, but I'm trying to do both. I use more fermented dairy as well because that helps a lot from a Chinese medicine perspective in terms of strengthening the body, in terms of the spleen meridian, which is affected in the liver meridian. So I eat certain foods at that time. And that's also very important that there's a season and there's a time to eat certain things. And so you have to listen to your body and understand that. So I look at that, JD. I recommend that. And then ginger comes in. And I'm so sorry, but it has to come in because there's some cinnamon ginger in it, such as Guizha Fuling Wang, which is a Chinese formula. And I find that helps a lot. But I also find it sometimes with mild PMS symptoms, and it depends on the symptoms. Because,
Right.
for example, if you're having bloating, then we know that there's a lot of congestion. The hormones have caused the veins to sort of relax, the arteries relax, and so there's more filling, so to speak, of the veins, and your circulation is more lax. It's almost like if when you're pregnant, then you will use things that will sort of help with that. So that comes to ginger, cucumbers, and other water leaching herbs that you can use, such as parsley, celery,
Right.
and so forth. Um, let's say I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling anxious, I'm getting irritated. Then you come with cinnamon, ginger, lemon balm, chamomile, tulsi, all herbs that you've heard about before. So, I mean, California poppy. Sometimes I use a little bit of rose at times, depending on what Vitex is, and I'm from a superior point, which is the pituitary gland. So that's also a nice herb to use at times. Maca is an amazing herb, ashwagandha. So these are all supplements or herbs, I should say, that you can use, JD. But you have to, it depends on what you're feeling and how you're feeling it. But the cornerstone of dealing with PMS starts with positivity, proper sleep, stress coping, exercise, a balanced diet, and understanding your body. Because you can't be frustrated that your hormones are there. You can't be vexed at your body. That's what's supposed to happen. So you have to understand that, and you have to see what works for you. So I sometimes, and sometimes, don't you find it PMS? You need more chocolate
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
more junk food, like it goes haywire. And then when that's done, it's like, okay, good, I can walk off. I mean, but that's the fun of life, right? So it's the dynamics and it's the cycling. And that is what I think people shouldn't take PMS and make it, oh, because I have PMS and tomorrow I'll talk to you after that period starts. No, you have to embrace it and you have to try and live with it and be positive. Positivity is the key to it all.
And also, I think just speaking to the gentleman too, this is an opportunity for them to understand this is just nature within ourselves, just going ahead with the process. And it's not that we mean to be, difficult to deal with at this point in time. Like you said, emotions, things are happening with the hormones. So it is just part of the process that
And
both.
Jenny,
Mhm.
don't you find like your mother and grandmother, they our older women folk, they just accepted these things.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
now we overtalk.
yeah, yeah.
We have to overtalk. We have to defend it to the last grain, our rights. And so it was like, I'm not saying accept it and move on and suffer in silence, but I'm saying partners and talk it out because it's something that women have been going through for years, for centuries. And you just have to learn how to deal with it and also learn that it doesn't have to be as impactful on your day-to-day living. Because if you do changes, small changes on your lifestyle, you will see a difference. Something sometimes as simple as eating more dal and rice or khichdi, for example, or chuk, if anybody learns about chuk or congee, and nourishing the body and balancing the body and understanding what the body needs. So those simple yet impactful changes can sometimes offset the negativity of PMS.
I read earlier on today that they say one of the first things you need to do is speak to your doctor if just to make sure all is well with this PMS syndrome that you're going through, premenstrual syndrome period. But they also said the reason why they want you to speak to your doctor because it can also resemble other things that can happen as a female. So how do we know
Correct.
it's not that or this before coming to you or whilst coming to you? How do you,
So
as a
you see,
doctor,
that's what you said to your doctor. You, you, Right. So you would know when you come in, for example, if you're seeing a pattern, then you come in for your annual checkup that you're supposed to have every year with your doctor. Your doctor should ask you, how are your periods? How are you feeling? How is the bleeding? How is your ovulation? How are you feeling overall? And if you point out that you're feeling a little more stressed or you having certain symptoms, within the blood work that we do on a yearly basis, different tests will be added. So simple things like checking your blood count or your CBC, looking at your thyroid activity, looking at your hormones when you're supposed to be ovulating. We look at the LH, FSH, estrogen, and progesterone levels. So there are things that we can look for just to ensure, for example, that there's no tumors, no other underlying causes for extreme PMS. So if you're a woman that never felt it and then all of a sudden you're feeling more and more PMS, you definitely need to go to your doctor and have that discussion. Now in COVID time, for example, and I hate blaming COVID for everything, but
Mm.
now in COVID time, anything will make you anxious. So
Yeah.
anything, but while we as doctors may be very blasé and say don't worry about it, we would do a check. If it's something bothering you, we should do a check, I should say,
Great.
because we have to rule out that nothing, because COVID is not the end of it all. There are other things happening in the body. So I'm so happy. You see, you actually did something I didn't do, which is say go to your doctor first. But I think it's about, but before you go to the doctor, understand the body and do a diary so that you can really explain what you're feeling. So the doctor is not saying, well, go home and tell me how these symptoms happen and then let's make sure. Come prepared and let me know, look, the cycle, the last two cycles, this is what I felt before the cycle. I'm noticing more and more XYZ. And that is of a great help and a key to what tests need to be done. And I say this because, JD, private healthcare is expensive anywhere in the world, much less in the Caribbean. So you want to give your doctor as much information as possible so they can determine what tests need to be done. Because if you don't have insurance and you're paying out of pocket, that's the harsh reality. And I
Yeah.
don't want people to think that doctors are a waste of time and all they want is money. It's that we have to know, and our, you know 90 to 95% of our diagnosis can be determined and discerned from just the interview, the medical interview, chatting with you, and the physical exam. And then we know where to go. We can tell you a diagnostic test that can be done. And
Right.
and that's, you've had that experience with me where I will tell you, JD, I need this written down. I need to make sure. It can't be I got a pain in my neck today. Let me run to the doctor tomorrow. It has to be that it has to be that there is, you see that I be concerned. That is definitely fine. But I say this because as patients, rather than coming armed with Google symptoms, to me, I prefer you to come with a diary of what you are perceiving. No, and I say this, JD, because I think you need to give the physicians a benefit of the doubt. It's okay for you to educate yourself, but the best thing for you to do is listen to your body, know what you're feeling, and write it down. So when you go in front of the doctor, that, oh my God, I'm in a doctor's office, that, oh my God, what am I going to do here? And everything flies out your brain.
Yeah.
All the
You do forget.
information gone out your brain.
Yeah.
And you forget what you're supposed to say. And then next thing you know, you call and say, you know what, I forgot that my right toe itches. It's like the doctor eating dinner and you say, I forget to tell you my right toe itching. And it's like, but I'm in the middle of dinner. I don't even remember what your case was. So I say this to you because I'm making it as real as possible that we as physicians, and I hope I speak for the majority of my colleagues, everybody knows I love what I do and I laugh the hell out of my day. That's fine. But I must tell you, I am much more impressed with a patient coming to me with a book. I don't care how long your story is. But if you come with 3 pages to tell me, look, on Tuesday I felt tingles, boom, boom,
Right.
boom. On Wednesday, boom, boom, boom. That is so much more effective and productive in a doctor's visit, you
You
know?
like you're doing
And
your
that,
own homework on yourself instead of you
rather than Googling it and coming to me and telling me what your diagnosis is.
don't need
I
to do
don't mind if you Google,
you
but if you could come
don't
and give
need
me
to
some information.
you don't need to light me up like this or something. But I hear you. I
Well, I want you to keep your Facebook diploma of medicine to yourself, kind of thing. But no, but JD, that aside, there are some things that come out on Facebook, social media, on
right.
Google that we may not remember or recall. It's okay for you to come and discuss. Be very upfront. For me, everything should be explained by physiology. Everything should have, because your body communicates. So even though I do Chinese medicine and herbal medicine, it's not wahoo. It comes together. And that is why I love the integrative aspect of what I do.
Yeah.
And that is why I I like what we do, because I want patients to understand we are not gods as physicians, but give us a little bit of credit and what you need to look for. And so many things have changed because now you could go to a pharmacy and buy whatever you want. You could pick up some supplement, and by the time you come, your symptoms have changed. So it's never the first symptom you felt. You understand?
Yeah.
So all of that has to be taken into consideration. So that is why I appreciate this discussion, and
Mhm.
I want PMS not to become this thing that, oh gosh, is the enemy. So first I have ovulation for 3 days and I die, and I have PMS for a week and I die, and then I have a period for a week. So by the time I done is a week out of my life in a month, I good. That can't be it. Life is too short for that.
Exactly. So it's important to
You
come.
know, some people get acne.
Yeah, you do.
Yes.
I remember I
You
was
get
getting
more acne, all of a sudden you look like a teenager, and you want your face, and it's always just before a function that pimple coming up.
right here or right
And
at
yeah,
the nose.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But that's why foundation exists, and
So,
aloes and these things.
but as always, it's good to have these conversations with you pertaining to our health. As we get ready to wrap up this conversation, because I know you've got your stuff to be getting on with. What sort of reminders do you want to share with us pertaining to PMS? And by extension, you mentioned COVID is still around, so I don't know if you want to touch on anything that you may have noticed that you're still doing. I know it's
Well,
stressful.
with PMS, I think just journal your symptoms and pay attention to your body, understand your body. Try and ensure that you have proper sleep cycles. Try and ensure your stress coping. I know it's a stressful time for all of us now.
Yes.
Look at your food, look at what you're eating. Don't begrudge yourself if you have a chocolate once in a while. Life is short. That little glass of wine is not going to kill you either. But don't turn to a ton of supplements and think that you're dying, and be positive about your reproductive cycle. Have that understanding that this is a part of your life and you're blessed to have it. There are women who are not as fortunate, and we need to appreciate and look at our glass half full. Where COVID is concerned, I think that will just drive me insane. All I can say is please wear your masks covering your nose and your mouth. Please remember to cough and sneeze in the crook of your elbow. Please remember to wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 to 30 seconds, and washing it properly. All the fingers, all under the nails. Maybe cut your nails for this season.
Everything.
Use a alcohol-based hand sanitizer. And just social distancing, or physical distancing, I should say. I know that we in Trinidad and Tobago are very nervous with the numbers. The numbers are climbing. We're seeing more fatalities and deaths, that is. Um, my deepest sympathy to the families. I sat here today thinking that, people are dying more and more. It's now a daily occurrence of our lives.
Yep.
And this is tragic. I spoke to somebody today who lost their grandmother, and I think that rocked me as a physician, because you don't get to say goodbye. You don't get to say I love you anymore. That's it. So you have to be cautious. Be very dear brothers and sisters keeper, and stop with the nitpicking. There's a reason we have these regulations in place, and I beg of you to cooperate with the authorities. And we'll do our best. We'll do our best. Do what is right. Stay safe. Stay home if you don't have to go out. Do not try to mingle at a bar. Do not try to pretend you need to go to any beaches or pubs or anywhere, or rivers or whatever it is. Just do what you have to do and be
Even if
safe.
it's a, even if it's a private beach.
I
Anyway,
am not getting involved in that.
so it is good to have you here. Thank you so much, though. I mean, I remember everything you said about what we need to do pertaining to the protocols. So I encourage each and every one of us, please stick to it. And as you said, too many people are losing their lives. And I think the saddest part is not obviously losing someone you love, but not getting the opportunity to say goodbye. That's another added negative or heartbreaking thing to this disease, this pandemic. So please, TNT, do what you can. It sounds like I always say this on radio. It sounds like a recurring. That's more like we're just repeating ourselves all the time, but we have to, because lives
But the points to be repeated if nobody's listening. So
affect us all.
so
So,
Jenny, and the mental health impact of COVID is tremendous. And I think we can touch on that in another show, but
Sure.
we understand, and everybody wants to travel. I miss smelling an airplane. You know, I miss shopping, even if it's shopping it's in Walmart, you know. But it is what it is, and we have to do what we have to do in order to get back to that. And
Quicker
that
if
is
we
very
do that.
important. And
Oh, if we
and
just
JD, 2020 has been a year. I mean, and my heart goes out. I would like us to please also say to our brothers and sisters that are in the US that are going through all those fires.
yes.
My heart goes out. I have friends that are impacted, and it's really tragic. People are losing their homes and their lives to
But
fires. So it's 2020 is a year and a half.
2020 is, someone said, posted a meme some time ago, and they said, let's pray to God that 2020 is not the trailer for 2021. Because that is
Well, then that is wow. I never like trailers. I hope it's a spoiler alert instead.
So thank you so much, as always, Dr. Asante Le Blanc. Quickly remind us of your location and contact info, please.
Oh gosh, we're located at 54 Gallas Street. It's Victoria Clinic. It's 622-2221, 622-0683. Instagram at Victoria Clinic _Trinidad. Facebook at Victoria Clinic. And website www.victoria-clinic.net. And as always, your home for holistic healthcare in Trinidad and Tobago. And we are trying our best to stay safe and keep you safe as well.
Thank you very much, as always, for your time. You be safe.
Because God knows I run for you, and when it comes to hooking me down for this.
I know. I try. I know, but I understand how crazy it is for you. So I apply a lot of patience. Thank you so much.
It's been hectic.
We'll chat again soon.
You. And have a good night. Yes, for sure. Next week.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Thank you guys for looking on to the live checkup. As always, click like, subscribe, share. You can't be stingy with the information that we share, all right? Take care and be blessed. Bye. And that's it. Another episode of The Live Checkup with Dr. Asante Le Blanc. This is where I say to you, thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the questions as well. You help me do my job even easier. And of course, it's always good to have Dr. Asante inside of our world virtually discussing some of the very important topics pertaining to our health. Now, if you've got that topic for a health discussion with Dr. Asante Le Blanc, don't hesitate to connect with us. In fact, send that email to jdsocial868@mail.com. Yeah, and we'll certainly put our heads together and bring forward another one of the episodes with you in mind. So don't forget, jdsocial868@mail.com. Check out my website as well if you're looking for any voiceover talent or maybe a host for an event, whatever it may be. Check it out, www.jdmedia868.com.